Are Prince Harry and Meghan Markle about to get the axe from Netflix? Yes, oh yes. The rumors are growing, and it was first reported on Puck News that apparently Harry and Meghan's deal with Netflix will probably not be renewed next year. And this is pretty disastrous for them if true. And I just don't really have any doubt that it is. Harry and Meghan have had one successful project out of three. And their next two projects, a polo documentary that no one will watch, and Megan's American Riviera Orchard, which probably also as well nobody will watch, is not a strong indicator for a future deal with Netflix. So, what does this mean for Harry and Meghan? And what does this mean for their role within the entertainment industry? Because the entertainment space has changed drastically since they entered in 2020. Hollywood way overspent. They have had years now of poorly performing films, television shows, expending way too much on streaming, and the entire industry is contracting. So Harry and Meghan, I think, will definitely be one of the people on the chopping block. So after that, what does their future hold in Hollywood? I don't think it's going to be very good. And I'm going to share with you some of my ideas. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, my name is Brittany. I provide a compelling royal commentary. So feel free to hit that subscribe button. I would absolutely love and adore to have you back. And we're looking forward to getting a lot of new things out in September. So again, if you guys want to tag along, feel free again to hit that subscribe button. So when I first heard this news, somebody mentioned that it was reported in TMZ and a couple of other places, and I just didn't put much stock in the idea as of yet, really, that a good outlet was reporting that Harry and Meghan were going to get the axe from Netflix. And then I followed the sources as I do on this channel because I like to give you guys the best news possible. I don't really discuss blind items. I don't really discuss kind of far-flung publications about different things because there's a lot of BS out there, frankly. So I like to go with a lot of mainstream publications, and this definitely is one of them. And this is Puck News, which is pretty reputable. And the woman who wrote this particular article that we're going to talk about, which is talking about the overall best and worst deals in Hollywood that they made during the streaming wars, is Leslie Goldberg. And she is an award-winning journalist who has spent 2 decades covering television. And so she knows a lot about renewals, cancellations, overall deals, all these sorts of things. So when someone like her is going, yeah, this is happening, I tend to think she's probably on the right track. So let's look at this article real quick. And I will say that the Harry and Meghan blurb is a little less than I was thinking it was. But I think this is so important. This is from Puck News. Yes, I did pay to get a subscription to Puck News. Make sure I could read the source directly. Yes, on this channel, I subscribe to the Telegraph, the Times, everything I can to give you guys the best news. So this is looking at an overall trend. So this is one part of, I think, 3 or 4. Looking at this is J.J. Abrams. He obviously did Star Wars, Lost, I think Alias, a couple other things. And talking about these massive, massive deals that Hollywood made to various creatives within the industry. And these were for hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And so this was happening when streaming was hot. And basically every production studio was like, we need our own streaming platform. Netflix is competing with us. We can't let that happen. So everybody basically pulled their catalogs from Netflix, which forced Netflix to go into overtime producing its own content. And you could say that that's been somewhat of a burden for Netflix because it accrued a lot of debt, but also has had some hits. And what has happened as basically every studio decided that they needed their own streaming service is that they pumped a lot of money into it and really haven't gotten much of a return. And so it came out recently that I believe Paramount Plus is closing. Maybe not, because there are some things that are still scheduled to come out. But my understanding is that it's folding because, again, they just don't really have the money or the capacity to really maintain these channels and maintain separate shows on these platforms. And so it's just kind of interesting thing going on within the industry is that at the end of the day, Netflix has won. Harry and Meghan should be so happy about this. But why may they not be going anywhere? We shall see, of course. So it talks about here, just to give you an idea, this is obviously Abrams, and he was given $250 million to create film franchises, which never happened. Here's the thing, too. Hollywood has been dumping a lot of money into these creatives with very little return. And some of these guys do have really good track records overall until probably the whole debacle with Star Wars. J.J. Abrams had a pretty good track record, but things obviously went to the wayside. So the worst whiffs, aka the biggest bust. Obviously, they came up with J.J. Abrams. Yeah, had potentially getting $250 million since 2019, and he hasn't delivered anything really. That's been definitely a bust for them. Sam Ismail at Universal. You have David Benioff and DB Weiss. So these are the Game of Thrones creators who totally botched the ending and then went into Netflix, and that didn't really go anywhere either. Phil Lord and Chris Miller, Phoebe Waller-Bridge with Amazon, also given an $80 million a year contract and nothing really to show for it. Julie Plec, the Vampires Diaries series co-creator. And then we have Higher Ground and Archwell. So yes, they are on the boo-boo list here. They really messed it up. And if you want to know what Higher Ground is, that is the Obama's production company. And so according to this, raise your hand if you haven't worked briefly at the Obama's Higher Ground production company. So this is kind of interesting because this is somewhat inside baseball. And so they're talking to the industry. So it says the executive turnover and slow output have frustrated Netflix, even if the deal had delivered a hit feature, Leave the World Behind, and several docs the Higher Ground is kissed into. I haven't really heard that phrase before. On the TV side, the jury is still out on Will Forte's Irish comedy thriller Bodkin, while the animated preschool show Add a Twist ran for 4 seasons. Sign of displeasure, Netflix let go of its exclusivity when it renewed the Obamas in June at a reduced first look rate. So what this means is that Netflix had a first look situation with the Obamas. And so they had a big contract, and so that they could look first. And as it turns out, when they got the first look, they're like, no. We're not liking the output. We're not liking the features coming together. And so it decided to pass on that and actually re-sign them at a lower rate. So this is definitely something Harry and Meghan could look forward to. Next is the streamer is not expected to renew its 5-year, $100 million deal signed in 2020 with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Meghan's passion project, the animated kids show Pearl, has already been canceled, and the unscripted cooking and polo offerings didn't connect the way the royal couples Harry and Meghan did. Now, I will say this is a little odd because obviously they can't connect with audiences yet. We haven't seen them. But what I think is clear here, and I have no doubt is absolutely true, is that Netflix is looking at the things that Harry and Meghan put forward, and they're like, really? Polo? A cooking show? There are a billion cooking shows. You can actually go on Netflix right now, and I'm sure find better cooking shows. So I'm sure Netflix is like, well, okay, but we're not super excited about this, and we don't see the interest from the public either. Because Harry and Meghan, what they've done broadly is done, you could call them passion projects, but without really discernible purpose. It's like, I'm interested in polo, so let's make a polo documentary. Not is there a story to tell? Do the people who have the most interesting stories want to tell them? Are people going to be interested in watching this? There's so many questions that need to be answered. And I just don't think polo is going to hit well. And especially somebody was telling me, and I can't quite remember if this was Instagram, Facebook, in person. I can't remember quite where this was, but somebody was telling me, the best stories in polo are kind of the ones you can't tell because they're the kind of the gossipy things and couples sleeping around or something to that effect. I can't remember. Please don't quote me, but something to that effect is that essentially those kind of things go on within the industry, but you can't really talk about them because nobody talks about them. And the other thing is no one watches polo. Why would we be interested in a documentary on something no one watches? Now, it could be also said that Harry and Meghan, of course, when they were on their tour in Colombia, were also having Netflix film. And speaking of tour, if you guys enjoy talking about royal things, I do have an upcoming tour, sans Harry and Meghan, although we will discuss them, to the Christmas markets in Germany and the Czech Republic. It's going to be amazing. We're going to Berlin, Dresden, and Prague. There's going to be even a stop at a little town that's well known for wood toys and those sorts of things. And so there will be just amazing history, an amazing time, amazing cultural experience, and you'll still be home in time for Christmas. So if you're interested in that, I will put a link up above. We would love to have you join us. We already have a good group and some people who have been on tours now 2 times and one person 3 times. So guys, these tours are well beloved. People so enjoy them. And I know some people are so looking forward to reconnecting and everything. And so if you are interested in making new friends and connections with people who also love royals, again, these tours are a great way to go about it. And so back to obviously Harry and Meghan in Colombia. It was clear that there was, I think, a production crew following them, and it wasn't the video that we got. So we got some very short, silent videos, which could also be, again, I made this clear in a different video that I think Harry and Meghan tried to monetize the Columbia tour by blackballing the press, and so that only their photographer got pictures of certain events. So if you wanted a picture of a certain event, you had to pay essentially not only that photographer, but probably Harry and Meghan as well, in order to access that picture and utilize it for editorial purposes. Now, that's just my theory. I don't really know. But we have an additional thing too. So during this Columbia tour, there were only a handful of videos that got out to the press that were officially like monitored, you could say, by Harry and Meghan, and all of them were silent pretty much. We didn't get any audio from like any of these videos, but there was clearly people following them with cameras. So my question is, you can actually see the person right here. My question is, will we get another documentary about Harry and Meghan touring the world? Because we really care about that. We really care about their extended vacations in foreign countries. Again, Harry and Meghan are not terribly bright at this entertainment industry thing because honestly, we'd only watch that probably to make fun of them. I just don't foresee a big audience for something like that. It just doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. And Harry and Meghan are not good at finding an audience. They're just really, really not. They really stink at this. This is not their career path. Not to be mean, but it's really not, guys. And so Harry and Meghan obviously have this route that they could go to as well. And then you got Meghan Markle's cooking show, which is already a mess. I did a video and I had to like shelve it because I mentioned Blake Lively and how Blake Lively had a much better launch for Blake Brown, her hair care line. And then I'm like, all the stuff with Blake blew up. And I was like, can I still use that video? So I might put that to my highest tier members or maybe more members and we can figure out, should I put this video out there? I don't know. Anyways, all that to say is American Riviera Orchard has had a disastrous launch. Some places have said, well, it hasn't launched. Yes, it did. She opened up a social media page, made that public, published a video, and then it's been nothing. We're closing in on 6 stinking months of zero. Nada, nothing from American Riviera Orchard. Just that it's stuck in trademark hell. And we're supposed to get excited about a cooking show? Like there's a billion on one of those. She's probably going to make just only like 6 or 8 episodes. They weren't in production that long. I mean, these don't take terribly long to get together, but I just don't really think, and Meghan Markle's thing is going to take off. And here's the thing too, Meghan Markle can't do things simply. She kind of overthinks them and overanalyzes them. And also I think just overstretches things. And what I mean by that is that she's going to make this a preaching episode. I don't know about you, but if I'm watching a cooking show, I want to learn how to cook, not be lectured to. And Meghan Markle can't help but lecture. Like that is her thing. When she went around Columbia, lecturing. She was on a lecture circuit. That's what she was doing. Anytime she could grab a microphone, she did. And so I don't foresee her cooking show doing all that well, especially if it's very, very preachy. Because right now, the kiss of death is being preachy in Hollywood because every production is almost preachy because of all the DEI and woke and everything that is in productions right now is killing the entertainment industry here in the States. So many people are watching foreign outlets, like the rise in like South Korean and Japanese shows on Netflix, like people watching them because they can't watch the American stuff because it sucks so badly 9/10 of the time. And so people are going outside. So there's such a diversification of entertainment at this point. I just don't foresee Meghan having a big hit with the cooking show. I just really don't think, especially because what I find really interesting is this rise in desire for authenticity. So go ahead and listen to this. This is sort of about the whole Blake Lively situation. And I pulled this from YouTube because I've been hearing people talk about things. And I was like, oh, this references what we're talking about. So go ahead and take a listen here.
A shift has occurred where we are tired of the disconnect and tone-deaf statements of rich and privileged celebrities. The influx of influencer culture now means we have the power to pick and choose who to give our support to. When everything is so performative, the audience will start to crave authenticity.
I think this person is totally right. Authenticity is a currency. That's why YouTube is so huge. The #1 streaming platform is technically YouTube. Why? Because it's people being authentic. And Meghan Markle really struggles with that. And at this point, we desire more authenticity sometimes than we desire sort of the preachy, concocted narratives of Hollywood. And Meghan Markle really, really struggles with being authentic. She does. She wants to mask. She wants everything to be perfect. She wants to masquerade in this perfect facade, and it just doesn't work. And I think people will see through that. And honestly, we already have indications that this probably isn't going to do well. So let me check on this real quick and see what the ratio is still looking like on Harry and Meghan's recent interview with CBS. So what we're looking at here, if you're kind of not aware, is the ratio. What the ratio is this number right here. Now you have to add a Chrome extension to see this. I did a whole video on this. So if you're interested, feel free to click the link up above. But the ratio basically is a way for the audience to tell whoever is creating this series or this video or whatever is that they don't like it. So being ratioed is pretty bad on YouTube, and it hits your algorithm pretty badly too. So like my ratio usually is only like 98%. So 98% of people who watch my videos like them. And of course, you're always going to have people who don't like them. But this is so critical. It's like hard to underestimate how bad this is for Harry and Meghan. And I think the other one was technically worse. This one was actually better at one point, but it's now more like 10%, 90%. And so 90% of people didn't like it. That's really, really bad. And this goes to Harry and Meghan's likability. And I know the Sussex Squad says, well, it's just you people. Everybody loves Harry and Meghan. No, they don't. They don't. Netflix knows this. Netflix knows they're not liked. The reason Harry and Meghan, the reality TV show, did well is because they shared private details about the royal family, behind the scenes things nobody else could get. That's what drove the Netflix numbers for their first show. Beyond that, they have yet to do anything significant. Heart of Invictus flopped. Live to Lead flopped. Polo documentary will flop, I imagine. And Meghan's cooking show will probably flop as well. She may get some okay numbers, like the Curious Looky Loos, but they'll drop out. I don't even think Harry's Polo documentary will go anywhere, to be honest. Unless there's something really juicy, I don't even think that'll go anywhere. I really, really don't. And this is not foolproof, but I think this ratio shows that there is a strong dislike for Harry and Meghan. They are not liked people. And because of this, they're going to have a really hard time in the entertainment industry. Because right now, again, not only does authenticity sell, but likability sells. Harry and Meghan are not likable. And so, what does the future hold for them within the entertainment industry? Well, I would offer it's pretty bleak at this point. I think Meghan's Hail Mary is going to be a book. I imagine a book is coming at some point. She might have already be working on it because she has more stories to tell. And the thing is, I really feel like I've said this in previous videos, but it's been so long. I have so many videos I can't quite remember. Always my thought has been is that the worse things get for them, the more outrageous her claims will be, because she's having to kind of conjure up, you could say, controversy. You could say she's like trying to churn up a reaction. So she'll have to go further to get that reaction because she's kind of losing the audience at this point. And I think this is true. They have lost the audience. And so who's going to sign them? The whole industry of Hollywood is contracting. There's so much blue. And so I have been watching, because I like to watch people who talk about Hollywood stuff, the whole collapse of the Acolyte. And it actually has interesting comparisons to Harry and Meghan, because there is a segment of the population that's very upset that the show was canceled. But there's even a larger population that's cheering. And the truth is, even though the show catered to this particular population of people who pretty much espouse, you could say, DEI woke values within their entertainment, that cadre of people ended up being very small, because it could not help the Acolyte survive, because the rest of the population hated it. And so this little cadre of people, they're so upset, they're so angry, but they couldn't generate enough people to actually watch it to make it worthwhile for them to do a season 2. And so that's something I think to think about with Harry and Meghan too. The ratio from CBS shows that the Harry and Meghan cadre is actually very, very small. It's very small, because people really don't go out of their way to downvote something unless it's just a way to express displeasure in something. But downvoting has real world implications oftentimes. It does. And so I think for Harry and Meghan in this particular situation, the downvoting reflects that they're not liked probably by about 90% of people, or 90% of people who follow them don't like them, and only maybe 10% of them do. That's a scary thought in a way for Harry and Meghan, and especially for Netflix, because Netflix, although it is doing better, and obviously as well, now companies are selling back their catalogs, so Netflix is able to build up its library again, because a lot of the other streaming shows, they've realized, what Hollywood has realized is that when they license things to Netflix, they made more money than when they put it on their own platform. Because the idea was, if we keep this on our own platform, like Friends, we'll make more money via HBO Max than we will licensing it to Netflix. And then it turns out the reverse was probably true. So anyways, as the industry is sort of kind of adjusting from this and after multiple strikes and kind of the exorbitant costs of Hollywood at this point, there's so many unions, there's so many workers you have, so many writers. They were explaining to me, I was listening to this one thing, like to pitch a show or something, you get like 25 grand just to pitch a show. Even if it doesn't go anywhere, a writer gets an opportunity to pitch a show, they get 25 grand just for doing that, which is crazy, isn't it? It's absolutely crazy. So all that to say that Hollywood is overextended. They are not having as much money coming in because entertainment is being outsourced. Netflix, yes, they became king, but they also have big productions over here on the side. They're probably going to cost massive amounts of money and are going to be infinitely more successful than Harry and Meghan stuff. And so you're looking at something like Wednesday or One Piece. One Piece, especially, is going to be very, very special effects heavy, especially if it becomes very, very popular. But it's one of the largest, you could say, IPs in the world in some way, and it has mass global appeal. So why would you put your money towards Harry and Meghan over here if you could get a massive global audience over here? Not It's not only America, but like every country on earth. I think it was like number one in like 50 to 70 some odd countries at one point. Like it was like a record for One Piece. Harry and Meghan's is not going to have that longevity. I think even if you broke it down, and we don't know these statistics, but I'm sure it rated very high in countries that follow royals closely. So you're looking at the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Great Britain, some other countries in Europe, Germany. Germany's actually one of my top countries. So, hey, all you Germans, guten Tag out there. But it doesn't have the global appeal. There's some people who maybe watched it for kicks and giggles, but it doesn't have the kind of the international stamp that something like One Piece does have, which has this massive inbuilt global audience already. And this is actually even different than Wednesday, because I imagine Wednesday did well in the States, but I would guess it did not quite as well, or didn't have quite the longevity as it did in other countries because the IP isn't as well known. So IP obviously is a huge thing within the entertainment industry. That's intellectual property. So that's different franchises and those sorts of things. But I imagine Wednesday, although it's a huge show, it had a bigger audience in the United States because apparently Stranger Things, massive in the United States, but less so in other countries. And so Netflix has to decide, where do we put our money? Do we put our money on two people who we have to drag kicking and screaming to work, who produce mediocre products and think it's the greatest thing on planet Earth, who seem to flit around to different countries to do who knows what at this point, and seem to have no direction, no discernible purpose, no ability to keep staff together, for Pete's sakes. The two of them can't keep a staff together. Why in the world would Netflix give them more money and extend their contract when they could put more money towards something like One Piece, Wednesday, Stranger Things? Like all these sorts of IPs over here are much more viable than over here. I think Harry and Meghan, I think they're done. In a lot of ways, they're done. They don't have anything else. What are they going to do? That might be why they're still trying to promote this cosplay royal routine, because they got nothing. They have nothing. They bolted from the royal family without a plan, without a purpose, except for to control everything around them. Not really a discernible talent within this industry. Like they don't have talent. And so they'll sell themselves now more and more. That's what'll happen is they'll sell their image, their likeness, their presence more and more to try to make money. Because once this $100 million deal from Netflix is gone, Harry had some inheritance. I don't think Meghan had a lot of money left over from her suit stay. She might actually be making more now because of the whole Netflix resurgence, but it depends on how her contract was worded regarding streaming. So that could obviously very much change. And so how are they going to afford that $15 million mansion? Because that was Netflix money funding that. And because that was like a good chunk of his inheritance was to buy that house. How are they going to afford that? How are they going to keep things going? How are they going to pay for their outrageous security bills? The answer is they probably won't be able to. And so they'll probably have to sell out the royal family more because that's all they have. That was the only way they had any money coming in. And unfortunately for them, they chose the wrong industry to go into. And they may come even crawling back to the royals. How funny would that be? Harry and Meghan crawling back to the royal family. They'll try more. She may go back to acting. She was a crappy actress, but she'll probably get something from Suits. But there's just not, I would argue, there's like not a lot of hope for them if Netflix goes. Like their only option left literally is Meghan Markle's book. And that's it. I just can't see what else they would do. They don't have anything. They don't have anything. So Harry and Meghan right now should be thinking really, really hard about what the future holds and what they're going to do, because they can't riff off the royal titles forever because that's getting old. And yes, it gives them media attention, but rarely is that media attention ever turning into cash for them or anyone else, really. That's the thing. It's not turning into cash. So, how are they going to pay for their exorbitant lifestyle going forwards? The answer is they're going to become increasingly desperate. They may have to downsize and they may have to find a different route, but we shall see. So, guys, let me know what you think about Netflix maybe dropping Harry and Meghan. I know I've talked about this quite a bit, but I have a strong feeling that this is really gonna be the case. So, guys, anyways, let me know your thoughts though. Thanks for so much for watching, and I shall see you soon. Bye.